Hey y'all, this is Cassie. I am a Zone 9A Florida gardener. Think as far north as you can go, center of the panhandle. It is May, it is muggy, and it's only about 81 degrees right now. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I did not pick the garden yesterday, so we're going to go through and we're going to harvest what we can find into the garden. I haven't even taken a look at it. I didn't come out here at all yesterday. So this is our first look together. Normally you would probably want to come out here super early in the morning and pick this before it gets hot, but I don't like when the grass is wet and touches me. So I waited till a little bit later so that the grass was more dried off. These are the Zephyr squash, and it looks like there's two of those. They're the ones that are like half yellow, half green. I could go ahead and pick this one, but the flower end isn't super dried up, so I'm going to give it another day. My daughter and I came through this weekend and pulled the rest of the onions. They just weren't going to make. They had started going to seed. And when onions start going to seed, they get pretty tough. So we pulled them all. They are on the drying rack, but I'm going to chop them up this week and put them in the dehydrator for onion powder because they just were going to be tough and gross. I'm looking at the zucchini and it looks like, oh, there's one that's probably ready. Yeah, that one's ready. If I leave it any longer, it'll be one of those ones that's big and I'd have to make zucchini bread out of it. It looks like the eggplants can stay for another day or two. Oh, there's a third one back there that I haven't seen. This is a crookneck squash. I ended up having to pull the one that was next to it because I think a squash vine borer got into it. I tried to open it and see if it was a squash vine borer, and there were a lot of actual little brown bugs inside of it. So I'm not honestly sure what in the world got it. I'm not a huge fan of crooknecks, and especially not this year. I got that bumpy texture on them, and they're just pretty tough. This is the giant area of chiffon squash, and I'm just gonna have to dig in there and see what's going on. On my way over there, I found a patty pan. This is the sunburst variety, and I think I might have left it on too long. But we'll take it inside anyway. Here's another one, and the blossom is already dried up on it, so I'm going to go ahead and harvest it also. I think that's about the size I normally harvest them. These chiffon squash are just huge, and they've produced so much squash. I said next year, this variety and the lemon squash and the Zephyr are going to be the only yellow squash varieties that I grow. I'm going to have to go to the other side and see if I can get in there. Maybe. Note for next year is probably to plant it on the outside of one of the beds because they literally got so darn big. That's all I see, but I'm sure that I missed one. Holy cow. The last variety of squash are straight necks. These are good producers. I just don't like the flavor of the straight neck and the crook neck as much as I do the chiffon and the lemon. And so next year, I don't think I'm going to grow the traditional squash that you can buy in the grocery store because I just have so much better success with the chiffon and the lemon. Okay, I think that's it for the squash. Now let's start finding all of the cucumbers. I almost called them pickles. Back here on the back of the trellis, I have the little leaf pickling cucumber, and I may have let this one go too far. It might be bitter. When they start getting white like this on the end, they tend to get bitter. So you just want to pick them before they get white on the end. And this one's like a weird shape. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it. It just didn't get pollinated very well. All right, and then I saw some at the top of the trellis over here. I honestly can't remember what variety this is. I'd have to go back and look when we were all planting seeds. But it's just one of the, I grow Parisian pickling. Like I said, I honestly don't remember. This is really tight in here this year, but because of the damaged beds from the hurricane, I had to plant the cucumbers with the squash next year. I definitely plan on separating the two so that it's easier to get to the cucumbers and the squash. I was fixing to say that that is it for the squash, but I remembered I have the lemon squash up here at the front that I didn't get. So let's get all, uh-oh. We have worms in our squash. You'll notice like this little white gooey stuff, and there's definitely a worm. Let's see if I can find it so I can show you what he looks like. There's definitely, see the little worms all in the inside. So I probably need to come through tonight with some spinosad and spray these so that we can get rid of those worms. All right, I'm just going to clean off my clippers good before I go back cutting. Okay. I don't think any of the others got worms, but those definitely had worms in them. When it's just my husband and I and the two little kids at home, that lemon squash feeds us like super well, because like 3 or 4 of those, and like that's a whole, just for one meal. I had 2 extra little okra plants one day when I was planting, so I put 2 of them up here in this front bed, and there is some okra ready. You want to pick okra when it's about the length of your finger, otherwise it gets like a woody, tough texture. This is like Louisiana long pod where it grows like 12 inches long, but like when it gets to 12 inches long, it is so woody you wouldn't want to eat it. And there is nothing like, you can't, people say, oh, cook it down or oh, pickle it. There's nothing you can do to get rid of that wood texture. I need to go get some string and tie these tomatoes up real quick. If you see some white dust on these tomatoes, it is not Sevin dust and it's not diatomaceous earth. I had some of the little green stink bugs on here, and so I got First Saturday Lime just to test. I use it in my chicken coops, and I use it on ant beds out in the garden, and I just wanted to test and see if it got rid of the little green stink bugs, because that's usually the pest that'll like mark up the skins of your tomatoes and make them tough, and it did. It got rid of the little green stink bugs. So if you have the little green stink bugs on your tomatoes, First Saturday Lime is an organic option for treating them. Of course, I didn't like sprinkle it all into the ground, but it definitely helped. I'm just gonna deadhead all of this calendula while I'm standing right here. I don't think this plant will hang on much longer. These really don't like the heat, and we've been in the mid-90s for what feels like weeks. So I've harvested all the seeds and flowers that we need. I've just left it for the pollinators. All right, I think that's good for today. Okay, I just toss them on the ground. Maybe they'll self-seed all over my garden. All right, let's go to the big in-ground garden. There's some calendula out here, but I'll get my daughter to come get it this afternoon. That's her project. Yeah, let's go to the big garden and see what else is out there. There isn't much out here in the in-ground garden to harvest. We have a ton of watermelons and cantaloupes on these vines, but They're not quite ready yet. They should be ready in just a few weeks. They're nice and big. We're just waiting on the tendrils closest to the watermelon to start drying out so that we can pick one and see if it's ready. These are all the beans that we planted a few weeks ago when we pulled potatoes. They're getting nice and big and healthy. I actually probably need to go through and fertilize this entire area with fish emulsion. So toward the end of the week last week, we finally started getting some ripe tomatoes, and they're not actually ripe. They're starting to ripen, and I pull them from the vine. When they get pretty orange, I'll pull them from the vine. Let's see if there are any. Here's one. I don't know. It's not quite that orange yet, so I'm going to leave it. It's pink. I like for them to be a little bit more orange than that. Now, if I had like a pest problem, like any little bit of pink on it, I would go ahead and pull. But because I do not have any pest problems yet, I better take my glasses off so I can actually see the color now that we're over here in the shade. I don't know if there's going to be any today. Again, I see some of those little... Here, let me show you what I was talking about by the little green stink bugs. So these are the little green stink bugs. Sometimes they'll have a brown shell, sometimes they'll have a green shell, but they are the ones that will go through and mark up all of your fruit. So they're the ones that I used the first Saturday lime on, and it took care of them. I don't think there are any tomatoes today. We could have fried green tomatoes today because I see a big old juicy green tomato down here, but I want to get a couple red ones before I start eating green ones. I'm going to cook squash fritters for dinner anyway, so that'll be our vegetable from the garden that we eat for dinner. Okay, I don't see any tomatoes ready. Let's go check the okra. I am so excited this year that I actually have giant pumpkins, and maybe the vines aren't going to get destroyed where I put them. So excited. Okay, let's check this pepper row. I don't think there's any peppers ready. I grew sugar rush peach, lemon spice, pumpkin spice, and then what's the variety that we got for my daughter? They're a peppercini, and I don't remember the exact variety. We're trying to find the peppercinis like the ones in the jar. I don't think any of these are ready because I'm going to let them turn to the orange and yellow colors on the vine, and that takes a pretty good while because you're letting your peppers mature on the plant. Peppers, you can pick any type of pepper when they're green, but we want those colors so that when we make pepper jelly, they're the nice pretty yellows, oranges, and peaches. All right, let's see if we can finally get enough okra for a meal. Oh, I might have let that one go a little too long. Let's see, one. There's none on these little ones. They'll get mature eventually. Here's the one. I'm going to pick this little one just because I think we might be having okra with our squash fritters tonight. Yes! Okra is one of those things that I've never been able to grow enough of to store over the winter because we eat so much of it, and I just never seem to be able to plant enough. Like, half of my row didn't even come up this year, but I gave up. So look at my flower gardens that are starting to have tons of blooms. So cool. Anyway, and this is our small harvest for the day. I am one of those people who just believes in feeding my family, so I always have little harvest, except for when it comes to the things like tomatoes, okra, and green beans, because I do store those for long-term storage. It's kind of hard to store things for long-term storage here in Florida, like root crops and stuff, because we don't have basements. Guess what I just found? But I think it has damage to it, and that's why it's red. Let's see. Oh yeah, it has blossom end rot. I was hoping it was an actual tomato. I'm actually going to come through later today and spray the tomatoes again with the root stop, or not root stop, with the rot stop spray. I'm going to keep calling it root stop spray, but it's rot stop, blossom end rot stop spray, because we're fixing to get 4 days of rain, and so I want to prevent more blossom end rot as much as I possibly can. I haven't found a ton, just like one here and there, but yeah, I'm never going to be one of those people with huge harvest. I basically grow enough just to feed us right now. And like I said, there's a few things like tomatoes, green beans that I will grow enough of to preserve. I preserve a small amount of squash, but we really don't like it frozen a whole lot or canned. I canned it a couple years and it was the same texture as frozen, but a lot more work. So I went back to just freezing it. And there are only 4 of us at home right now. And so that is way more squash than we can eat in 2 days, because I didn't pick yesterday. So technically it's yesterday's and today's. And we've been eating squash every day, even sent home some home with my family. I'll get these pickles preserved as well. Cucumbers, of course, are something that I grow a ton of. But I hope that y'all enjoyed walking through the garden with me today and harvesting. And I'll be back later this week, I'm sure, with something to talk to y'all about. So I'm walking through one more time, and I told you guys that I thought my first year artichoke was going to blossom, and it is. Like, look. I don't know though, it's like separated and it's not even the size of my hand, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know, but holy cow, that's not supposed to happen.